The mid-market, which couldn't really play the game before, they couldn't afford data teams and data warehouses and clouds and BI and ETL tools and
Right.
strategies. That's a whole thing. And if data is not your jam, if you're not a tech company, you're just not going to pay attention to that because that's a six-figure project, sometimes seven-figure, and you're just going to shelve it. Now people are getting more excited because they're realizing that things that used to take 18 months and cost $1 million now take 2 months or 3 months and cost $100,000. So the equation has changed so much that I'm finding companies think like, oh, the art of the possible. What can I do when the cost has come down such that I can entertain this? So that's been really exciting for me.
We're going through something absolutely historic.
Technologies across the board are growing exponentially.
It's a disruption that's going to completely redefine the way businesses compete.
In the next decade, we're going to lose 40% of today's Fortune 500 companies.
The exponential growth of computing is continuing.
AI is nowhere near its full potential.
Whether you like it or not, that the future cannot be stopped by anyone.
Welcome back to the Future Tech and Foresight podcast. I'm your AI host, Mark Verbenkov's deepfake avatar, and this is episode number 242. The era of big data left many companies with expensive infrastructure and little return on investment, but artificial intelligence is changing the equation entirely. Today, unstructured documents can be instantly transformed into actionable insights, and chatting directly with consolidated business systems is becoming an accessible standard. For mid-market companies, the barriers to entry have fallen drastically. By prioritizing agile pilot projects over massive, rigid structural overhauls, businesses can now rapidly implement AI solutions to automate tedious workflows, accelerate development cycles, and unlock a 360-degree view of their operations without breaking the bank. However, successful integration goes far beyond simply buying the latest software. It requires a fundamental commitment to data governance and accountability. Understanding what data exists, who owns it, and how it is organized is the critical first step before any meaningful automation can occur. As the workforce evolves alongside these powerful tools, leaders must look past the hype and fear to make informed strategic decisions. A little bit about today's guest. Ilan Mann, founder and CEO of Paradox Machines, started his career in statistics and actuarial work before diving into the world of AI. Today, he watches companies rush to adopt artificial intelligence, only to hit a wall when their ambitions outpace their actual execution. He points out a simple but hard truth. Most businesses aren't struggling with an AI problem, they are dealing with a massive data problem. To fix this, he helps mid-market organizations clean up their messy infrastructure so they can build a genuine competitive advantage. Because he actively builds these modern data solutions, Ilan knows exactly why some AI projects succeed while others completely flop. He pushes leaders to stop chasing the latest automation hype and instead focus on setting up rock-solid data platforms for the long haul. It's about building the right foundation today so companies aren't caught off guard tomorrow. Through his work at Paradox Machines, Ilan continues to show executives how to actively prepare for the next decade of technology instead of just reacting to it. Perfect. Ilan, thank you so much for coming onto the podcast today. I'm looking forward to another conversation about AI, as I'm sure everybody is trying to absorb as much information about this crazy tech that we're all using.
Thanks, Mark. Yeah, no, it's great to be here, and I hope people are interested in more AI talk. I wouldn't blame them if they're looking for a bit of a break, but
well, that's why we bring on the occasional, cybersecurity or biotech or robotics. I still see a lot of interest in AI, as I'm sure you are. I mean, I'm still interested in it, so we might as well talk about it, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously it's everywhere. It's changing fast enough that I don't know that you could be too bored of it yet because it's different, every few months. So yeah, I mean, people have to equip themselves with the knowledge, I think, if they want to be successful going forward. And yeah, what better way to do it than having a conversation about it?
Exactly. So how did you initially get involved in this world, right? So I'm a podcaster. I have a digital marketing business. I'm obviously implementing AI every single day throughout all of the tasks and workflows that we have, but I'm not a AI first guy, if you will. How did you get involved in this world?
Honestly, I don't know. I mean, I don't think I'm an AI first guy right now either. I certainly, work in the industry of AI, but my entry point to AI is through data. It's actually before data, I was a statistician, I was an actuary. So I actually come into data through kind of math and stats and models and stuff like this. And then, how do you do stats and statistics? You do it on data. And what is data? These like data pieces that kind of float around in the world and get organized and structured and collected and moved
Mm,
around. And that's when you get into engineering world, right? Systems thinking. And then you get enough data structured in a certain way. There are patterns. Patterns lead to machine learning. Machine learning is neural nets, and that's AI. So that's kind of my entry point is like in that direction, if that makes sense.
mm. Yeah, super interesting. Um, so I've had obviously one or two AI first podcast guests in the past. They've talked about the importance of data, and I think that maybe this is something that we can talk or touch on throughout the episode. But if this is kind of your background, are you seeing? How do I phrase this question? Are you seeing more and more, say, business owners becoming more concerned or more aware of the importance of data in general, structuring data as they are attempting to implement AI throughout their companies?
Yeah, that's definitely been one of the positive byproducts of AI for the data industry is that people care about it now.
Hmm. Hmm.
They kind of cared about it in the 2010s in this era of big data. Um, that kind of fizzled out. It didn't really work as far as I can tell, outside of like the Netflixes of the world where they have massive data and they are
Hmm.
effectively a data company. The rest of the industry was kind of cosplaying data driven
Interesting.
and
Okay.
kind of trying their best. Um, and there's only so much money you can throw at an investment and not see an ROI. And I just don't think that the data ROI materialized for the most part. That said, it's like it's important, it's everywhere, we get it, and you have to manage it, whether or not you
Mm,
want to, there's security and privacy and all the rest of it. So it was kind of just like a thing that happened, and you had to like deal with and grapple with.
mm.
And now comes AI. And AI changes the game in all the different respects that I'm sure you and your listeners and guests have talked about. But one of the ways that it changes it for data is that it makes it so much more tangible, right? Like the output of a data project in the past was like a BI tool, a dashboard,
Mm,
a data
mm,
visualization, which is really the tip of the iceberg. There's so much that happens underneath. And then people just weren't really satisfied with their dashboards. It's just like, great, I have a dashboard. It doesn't really lead to any KPI improvement or ROI, or
mm.
doesn't really make us quote unquote data driven. So let's shelve it. Enter AI. Well, with AI, I can optimize a workflow. It's very tangible. I can vibe code an app. I can do all of this stuff. Whether or not it's real TBD, because we're in the early innings, but people will certainly it's very visceral in a way that a
Mhm,
dashboard
mhm.
never was. So if you think of a data product, if AI is somehow a data product, right? It's the product of the data that it sits on and that it can use to inform your business, all of a sudden people are really interested in data
Right.
by way of AI. And that leads to positive and negative things that we can discuss. But on the whole, it has, the spotlight is back on data. What that means, it's still unclear because I don't think people actually understand their data. And that's one of the challenges.
Exactly. Yeah.
But it is, again, as a data practitioner, somebody who's been in the space for a while, there's never been this much quote unquote excitement, you know, about data. And
Mhm.
and I think legitimate buy-in. I think people understand that it's important.
Yeah.
So that's been nice, for folks like me.
So are you seeing like companies that come to you, are they starting like at their data journey, or are they already like, hey, we've spent the last 6 months trying to organize our data, our company data. Can you help us out? Or like you said they're excited about their data finally. They obviously see the value of having data organized in the company in order to, as you said, optimize a workflow or build something. How are business owners or entrepreneurs now thinking about this when they're talking to you?
So it's actually been really heartening to hear some of these companies, especially so the companies that I deal with, they're lower mid-market companies, so not quite the enterprises who have been mired in data for decades and they have their own challenges, which are, plenty. But the mid-market, which couldn't really play the game before, they couldn't afford data teams and data warehouses and clouds and BI and ETL tools and
Right.
strategies. Like that's a whole thing. And if data is not your jam, if you're not a tech company, you're just not going to pay attention to that because that's a six-figure project, sometimes seven-figure, and you're just going to shelve it. Now people are getting more excited because they're realizing that things that used to take 18 months and cost $1 million now take 2 months or 3 months and cost $100,000. So the equation has changed so much that I'm finding companies think like, oh, like, the art of the possible. Like, what can I do when the cost has come down such that I can entertain this? So that's been really exciting for me. The other thing I'm finding is that some companies who've been thinking about this for a while but haven't executed, they're actually telling me, hey, Elon, we'd love to do work with you, but our data's a mess. It's really dirty and we don't know what things mean. And what we don't want to do is start a project only for you to tell us 2 weeks later, hey guys, everything's broken. So that's actually it sounds bad. It's actually really good in my mind because it shows a maturity in the marketplace because and this isn't across the board, but there are tons of companies who are saying, great, let's throw AI on our data and like magic will happen because that's what they've been sold.
Right.
Some of the more, and then they have to go through the pain and a couple cycles of like, oh, the AI is not really good or, it's not solving our problems. And somewhere down the line, they start peeling the layers of the onion and they realize it's a data problem. Those companies that know it's a data problem, um, they're still sometimes stuck. They don't know what to do with their quote unquote dirty data, but they know that that's a problem they should solve first. So, in my mind, that's a sign of a maturing organization. And we can have a very reasonable conversation around, well, what does it mean to clean your data? What does it mean to validate it? How clean is clean enough for your use cases? And then we can have really, I'd say like interesting and important conversations beyond the vaporware of like an AI on top of your data is going to solve your problems. Kind of like you kind of want to move past that.
Right. Right. Interesting. And are these like I'm assuming from what I've heard before, a lot of these companies are starting off with like a pilot project. So they don't need like their entire company's data sets fully optimized, fully organized, fully cleaned up. It can just be, let's focus on this, clean it up, and implement like one of these visceral or tangible demos or projects that you were mentioning before, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So like, in the text in tech speak, there'd be like kind of the waterfall approach and like the agile approach, right? And there's different flavors, and I'm not a Scrum guy, but those are kind of broadly speaking. And I'm definitely a big fan of the agile iterative approach of let's take something small, let's get let's get it done really quickly and get that feedback. Oftentimes, I've run a lot of projects in my time. um, People have an idea of what they want. I mean, a lot of people don't, but some have an idea of what they want. They say, let's do it. You show it to them and they say, oh, now that I see it and I feel it, I kind of want it this way and that way. And you're like, okay, well, we can do that. And then you end up iterating. Um, the longer it takes for you to get to the feedback stage, the more likely the project's at risk. The budget's going to be blown up. They're not going to be happy about it. You're going to be frustrated that they didn't know what they wanted ahead of time. But like, who knows what they want? Nobody, right? Like, people have a plan, and then you implement the plan, and the plan changes. So I'm a big fan of like POCs, of pilots, of getting people feedback quickly, especially when you're dealing with say like mid-market, maybe like non-tech first companies and people, you talk about AI, you talk about data sets, it's so abstract. They don't know what the heck you're talking about. That's not their world. And that's fine. Like your job as a leader, practitioner, service provider is to make it easy for them. The easiest way, in my mind, is to show them.
Yeah.
Don't tell them, don't describe it, show them. Here it is. Here's your AI workflow automation. We took one use case, we automated some PDF into a doc and extracted key fields, fed it to an AI, and now you could chat with it. That's it. Took us a week. And then their brain starts racing, thinking, oh, well, if you could do that, then they
Right.
think about all the analogous projects that they have for you. And then you layer in, okay, well, those are very like quick wins, point solutions. Let's think more broadly. What is your data strategy? What is the data, like, what are your data sources? How are you building compounding value? Those are good long-term conversations to have, but you can't start with that. You can't open with
Yeah.
the multi-year journey. You open with the quick wins and then you kind of bring them along. And then you can start talking about real compounding value.
Okay, so are there a couple quick wins that like the majority of businesses are experiencing? Like you just outlined one, but are there like two or three others that businesses are like, oh yeah, that starts getting the gears turning about what they can do?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So like, and there's kind of like different categories of problems. So like the unstructured document, whether it's a Word doc or PDF that lands in somebody's email inbox or their SharePoint or Google Drive, and they want to extract to do whatever they want. That's a quick win.
Yeah.
That used to be a hard problem. It's no longer a hard problem. If anybody tells you it's a hard problem, they're not using the tools available to them. Let's put it that way. What you do with that information is different, right? I can't guarantee like extract data, value then is then created. I don't know about that, but it enables you to do stuff with it. So that's one category of problem. Um, the other one that I'm finding a lot of success with these days is chatting with your data, which is not necessarily novel. Like as of like I don't know, 24 months ago, that was a thing that people were doing, but not just chatting with. So if you think about like MCP, like if people use Claude or they use ChatGPT or Gemini, right? There's all these connectors to their Stripe, their Shopify, their Salesforce, their different systems. They could chat with it directly in their chatbot. That's cool. That's like an aha moment. Click a few buttons in your Claude desktop, connect the MCP, and now you're chatting with your data. The next level is chatting with all of your data.
Yeah.
That gets a little trickier because Claude or ChatGPT, it doesn't really know your data. It has access to your source systems, and then when you're chatting, but it doesn't know how that data talks to it to itself. So your Shopify data and your Stripe data might represent the same customer, the same transaction, the same invoice, but the AI doesn't know that because the separate systems don't talk to each other. So we have this world of data warehouses and ETL and pipelines, this kind of data engineering stuff. When you layer that into your AI system, all of a sudden you can chat with your data and you're not chatting with your individual Stripe system or your individual Shopify, your individual CRM Salesforce. You're chatting with kind of like the consolidated view.
Super
And
interesting.
then people start to think like, oh, I can actually have a 360 view. I can have the full life cycle. I know, I have all of the data that I want at my fingertips. Again, whether the data is clean or useful or what you do with it is another story. But that becomes another very quick win of getting all of your data in one place that you can chat with. And you didn't have to really build too much infrastructure yet.
Very interesting. Yeah, I can definitely see how that is giving even just better like strategic decision making, whether at the executive level or at a sales level, right? You'd be able to understand things
Mhm.
at a much more holistic approach or a holistic perspective, and then you could make better decisions for your
So,
company.
yeah, and that's certainly the promise, and it's starting to become the expectation, right? So like with AI comes this wave of, well, I want to customize everything, right? Like AI enables me to what I would call like break out of the SaaS box, right? Every time you open your SaaS tool, you have a box, you have a modal, and there's like 3 ways to do a thing. You add a record to a field, you update a column, you drag to the left, you drag to the right. There's like some number of things that you can do within your box. AI allows you to break out of the box. You can customize things. Not saying it's trivial, I'm saying it's possible. And now what we're finding is customers are expecting, well, I don't want to just get another SaaS. I want SaaS plus AI. Or rather, I don't even want the SaaS. I want to be able to, I mean, it's my data, right? Those are my customers. Those are my product lines. Those are my SKUs. Those are my invoices. It's mine. I want it. And I want to do what I want with it. I want to build an app on it. I want to, whatever. 3 or 4 years ago, I was like, sorry, that would have been really hard. You hire a data team, you get a cloud, you get a Snowflake, you get all this stuff. Now, you might still need some of that infrastructure, but it's just getting much more affordable to do. And that's been interesting. Like people have higher, like the bar's higher, I would say, which is great for people like me because it pushes us to have to do better and be better.
Yeah. And is this becoming like, yeah, I guess my question is this becoming easier to do? Because it sounds like the way you're describing is, oh, it takes, a week or two to put all this together and then you get this phenomenal benefit. Whereas I think like 2 years ago when I started having these conversations, it's like, okay, like got to put a plan together. Like it's going to take some time. Like we got to clean up all this data. You're giving the impression that it's a lot simpler than it was a couple of years ago.
So nothing takes a week or two, right?
Yeah.
Like in real time. In developer time, it's much faster. Yes, we have to have the meeting and the design phase and the interviews, the discovery, like that takes time. AI can make that faster, but like frankly, we're talking to people and gathering context. Once we've gotten this context and we understand we have an alignment, we have a plan, building is so much faster. I mean, it is materially faster than it ever was. You don't need an army of juniors migrating code by hand from one system to the other. AI can do that. You want senior people. I mean, this is my belief and how we're structuring our company. You want senior people organizing and managing agents with, human in the loop where needed, but no longer are they hand coding, like typing in Python, scripts and code. So we get to iteration faster, we get to feedback faster, we get to validation faster. So that middle part of the there are many software development frameworks, but there's like plan, build, ship is like a very maybe popular one. The planning still takes time. The building has been completely compressed, and the shipping is faster too. And whether you're testing within the build or you're testing within the ship, like you basically get to the test faster, which to the point that I was making earlier, that's what you want, right? You want to get to feedback faster. You don't want to let building code get in the way. So when I say things are faster, it's just so much faster to show somebody something. Now it might be a pilot, right? As we know, pilots don't scale.
Yeah.
Right. To get something to scale to production grade systems, passing through security, compliance, and all the rest of it, it takes time, right? That's a governance problem. But getting something that somebody could look at and be impressed by, hopefully, it's a week or two, It's so fast to iterate.
That's very interesting. I think also that enables, as you were talking about at the beginning, these mid-tier or lower tier companies, smaller companies. It's not just that it's available to them, but they're able to see it, and they are probably moving a little bit faster than larger corporates. So they need something a lot faster in order to justify pulling the trigger on like a larger project, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the enterprises are just kind of used to $1 million contracts that take a year. They have relationships with the big consultancies. Oftentimes, the big consultancies have, one enterprise probably has a contract with the Deloittes and Accentures and Palantirs and everything. It's not like they pick one. So they're just used to that's the model that they work with. mid-market companies, mid-sized companies, smaller companies, they're much more, judicious with their budgets, and there's fewer layers. It's
Hmm.
not as big of an organization or machine. They have to move fast. They can move fast, and they need to make a dollar last a lot longer.
Yeah.
It's got to go further. So, I mean, I like that. It's kind of a challenge for companies like myself, but it's very possible. Again, like AI enables you to have a smaller team. Like it
Yeah.
used to be that um, the metric was like, how big's your team? Everybody, oh, I have such a big team. It's like, cool. Now it's kind of different. It's like, how small is your team? How much revenue do you have per employee, right? That's like kind of
Yes,
the
yes,
metric.
yes.
So, one way to goose that metric is have fewer employees. Now, if you're just like optimizing for the metric, that's a different problem. But it does make you think, like, do I need to hire more people? Do I want to spend more dollars to generate a dollar?
Hmm.
Which is not really a thing that too many people thought about before AI made it, I don't know, cool.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. This has been something that I've been looking at quite a bit in my own company. And I know that many of the other podcast guests have come on. It's AI in its current form anyway is not a replacement tool for your current team. It's an enabler, or I guess the term that is used around a lot is an augmenter of your current team. Right now, that might mean you're able to do a lot more with the same amount of people, but then you kind of also get into this problem of, well, do I even need to hire other people? So you're not firing people, but you might be hiring less or at a slower rate. And not to bring up the whole, technological unemployment argument or topic. We can, but it's just something that I've been seeing for myself and for some of the other guests that have come on.
I mean, you have to interrogate it,
Yeah.
right? I think it would be silly for anybody to say, a priori, kind of like without having seen the thing, I believe that I have to cut my team in half or I need to double
Yeah.
my team.
Yeah.
Both of those might be true, but you kind of have to see and you have to interrogate it. So I'm not, like when it comes to this question, um, I, I I can make the claim that I feel confident in is that AI is going to change the workforce. I don't
Mhm.
know in what ways. I'm always skeptical of people who like know in what ways it's going to change it, because how the hell could you know? But it's certainly going to change it. Um, and whether that leads to hiring more or firing more, I think it's going to lead to an evolution of the workforce. In some respects, I mean, we're talking about like sitting behind your desk, typing in a laptop, like white
Mhm.
collar
Mhm.
work, right? Like there's a huge segment of teachers aren't really going to go away. Construction workers aren't going to go away. There's so many like hardware companies. I mean, they're almost certainly going to grow because that's like a space that hasn't really been touched as much as software. So yeah,
Mhm.
some segment of society is going to change, but I think it'd be silly to say, yeah, now we could fire the developers or the accountants or the lawyers. Um, as equally as I think it's silly to say we need to double it all forever.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
I'm also always skeptical of the people saying this. Like, are they invested in these companies? Like, what do they have to gain? And if you're not thinking about that, that's silly too. But I think what the healthy conversation is, let's take a look. Let's let's interrogate
Mhm.
long standing beliefs, because I think it's always good to interrogate assumptions. It's always good to question them. And if not, if nothing changes, if you do an assessment of your workforce and what people do and their work and their business processes and the tools available, and you think 12 months ahead or 24 months ahead, and you say, you know what, we don't actually have to change anything. That's a very worthwhile exercise. Even if it costs you $50,000 in consulting fees, you you've just like gained the confidence that you don't have to question your workforce for 12 more months, you know?
Yeah.
And as a leader, that's like very pleasant peace of mind, you know?
And is that what you're seeing as well? Like this kind of longer term, I think I'll phrase it this way. Like, is AI or the implementation of AI in these trials, these pilots, is it forcing business leaders to start thinking beyond like a 12-month or 24-month period? Or is it it's happening so fast that you can only think in these like 1 to 2 year increments?
I don't know who can be thinking beyond 1 to 2 year increments,
Yeah.
frankly,
Yeah.
but it is, I would say the forward thinking customers that I'm talking to are thinking much more broadly. They are thinking, okay, what does this look like in 5 years? And then being real with themselves, some of them anyway, of I don't know what it's going to look like, but I want to be well prepared. And
Right.
that's when they bring me in and they think, I don't know what tools I'm going to use or what the app layer is going to look like or what but I do know that, excuse me, what I do know is data is going to be important. AI runs on data. My company collects data from our customers, from our partners,
Yeah.
and that's one thing that I don't think is going to change in importance. In fact, it might become more important. So how do I, from a risk management perspective, how do I make sure I'm in a position to take advantage of what's available in 2, 3, 4 years as it evolves?
Mm-hmm.
Well, having clean data, I mean, nobody has ever complained that their data was too useful.
Right.
No, right? Like, oh, I should have invested $1 million in my data because now I could do everything I want with it. Said no one ever.
Yeah.
Not to say you throw money at the issue, but if you're thinking about how do I future proof myself,
Yeah.
there's probably a long list. One of them is invest in your data
Mm-hmm.
sooner rather than later.
Right. So maybe a simpler, more foundational question here. What is maybe the first step for business owners now, small, medium, large, otherwise, to do or to start thinking of when it comes to data? Like how do you consult people? Like what's the first thing to do when you're trying to structure your data nowadays?
It's a great question.
Mm-hmm.
There's a couple thoughts. One thought is just kind of take a holistic view. Not every single data point that your company collects, but
Mm-hmm.
where are your key data sources? Like where are your customer data, your financial data, your product data? You're not going to have 50 different. I mean, if you have 50 different places where you have key sources of truth, that's a problem. That's all.
Mm-hmm.
That's like one of your biggest
Mm-hmm.
red flags. You'll have half a dozen, right, of your core entities. Okay. Is there an owner for that data? Somebody accountable for the quality? The answer is usually like, maybe, I don't know. There should be probably that guy sitting over there. Like, does that person know it? So there's just like some fundamental questions of, I would say it starts with ownership and accountability. Before you even open the data set to see, like, is it clean? Is it what we think? It's like, well, whose job is it? Do they know that? That's typically where I start. And that's a big conversation already for companies that haven't thought about it. Um, you know, that then moves over to, all right, well, do they know? Are they trained? Is their team trained in the system, whether it's like a Salesforce or a, Shopify or NetSuite, whatever your source of truth is. Is the data coming out of it what you expect it to be? That then opens a Pandora's box of, well, it depends. What should we expect? All the rest. So there's that flavor of just like interrogating your data, both the people, the governance, and the systems and technology themselves. On the other end is, what are you doing with your data today? What decisions are being made in the company? Some companies will point to, well, we have this weekly metric, so like Amazon made famous, popular, the WBR, the weekly business review meeting. But every company has some version of like once a week leadership meets with about the metrics. Usually it's a financial dashboard of like revenue and costs and other things like this, growth. It's like, okay, do you have a version of your executive dashboard? The answer is no. You should probably get on that. If the answer is yes, then we start working down from there. Great. So that's your source of truth, your holistic view of like your company. Do you bless every single metric in there? Like, have you checked it? And like, yeah, we look at every week. We basically agree on it. So, okay. How do you know if you're getting better as a business? How do you know if you're improving? I don't know. We look at week over week changes. Like, okay, reasonable. How do you know if what you did, the actions you took, led to the changes you see? That's a hard question. because the business is complex. And a lot of people are doing a lot of things and everybody's really busy. It's like, okay. So you're telling me you're running on vibes. That's not obviously bad, but like that's what it is. And a lot of companies don't want to hear that. They want to say, no, we don't run on vibes. We're data driven. We have a metrics meeting. We've invested in a warehouse. We do all the stuff that I read in my CIO magazine. Okay, but you still can't tell me the impact of what various teams are doing with confidence. We should probably interrogate that a bit. So those are kind of the two ends of source systems and governance and who owns what, who's accountable. And on the other end is what is the output of this big machine that is your company and the data that gets crunched through it? What is the output? What are the products being built? What are the solutions being delivered? What are the features being pushed? And how, most importantly, how are you getting better every day, week, month?
Right.
Doesn't matter where you are today. What matters is where you're going and how you know you're going to get there and how do you affect your organization to get there better, faster, cheaper. If you don't know or you're kind of guessing, which is okay by the way, that to me says there's a room to optimize. There are things for us to discuss here.
So, looking forward a little bit, do you think the companies that are going to know this with certainty and clarity will just simply outperform the competitors that don't know this? Like, is this where the key differentiator in businesses is kind of going into?
So I also don't want to overstate the role of data. It's not like, you have one company that has customers that love them and beautiful design and products that are sticky and all the rest, but they don't have a dashboard, so they'll fail. It's like, no, you know. But all else equal, absolutely. I mean, wouldn't you bet on the company that's using data to drive decisions? All else equal, right? Data is not going to make up for a sort of, if I can use that word,
For sure.
for a bad product, for a terrible experience, for bad management. Data might surface that. It might be a lagging indicator of, nobody's using your product because it's really hard to use. How do you know? Because everybody's dropping off at this stage of the funnel. How did you know? Because we tracked it. If you're a small company, you should probably just ask people. There's room for anecdotes and qualitative research and qualitative analysis. At scale, you want quantitative, and frankly, you want both. You want a little bit of qualitative to lead your intuition and build up that kind of like muscle memory. And then you want quantitative to, give you ideas that you didn't have before, to point you in different directions, to help you with the spreadsheets that inevitably businesses run on spreadsheets, to like fill out spreadsheets. Like there's kind of a data is just like it's useful as a matter of course, as a matter of like running a business. Isn't going to be the thing that differentiates you. Might not be the thing, but it certainly is going to add to, everything else.
Right. Interesting. So what about, and maybe kind of, I see the time is winding down here. You said at the beginning, all these different models that everybody's trying to use or figure out which one the best one is. Does it really matter which model you're using going forward, as long as you have like one of these pilots that showcase the benefits of having structured data, having your data properly organized? Will the models matter, I guess, in the end?
So if you're talking about like the frontier models, like the ChatGPTs and Claudes, I don't think they matter today. Forget about down the road. They're only going to matter less and less. The one caveat is if you're a research firm or you're a very specialized, if you have a very specialized use case, biotech, you're looking at protein folding, or you're just doing something that's like really particular, then I don't know. The model might matter. Probably you're not going to take an off-the-shelf model anyway. You're going to fine tune it or do something to it. So that's that world. But 99% of the rest of us in consumer good in kind of on the consumer side or the enterprise side, the model doesn't matter. The model's optimizing for the last 0.1%. And what I tell my companies, this is true of data platforms that they buy or models that they use, if the difference between winning or failing is in the model or in the warehouse or in the technology, then you're winning. That's great. Amazing. Good for you. That said, you are not at the 99.9% of what you're capable of. You're probably at 50 or 60 or 70.
Yeah.
Therefore, to get you from where, 70 to 90 or something is not going to be a model. That's going to be a governance thing. It's going to be a culture thing. It's going to be something different. So, um, the models don't matter for what matters to you as an organization.
Gotcha. So then I guess the follow-up question, and maybe one of the final questions here, is what are your thoughts on open source models and these closed models that you can have kind of essentially within your company? I had a couple of guests come on and say, like, here's I can't remember if it's the correct term, but a closed source model that isn't connected to another company, like you own the model essentially.
Yeah. So I like, we're recording here in like end of July 2026. The open weight models, the open source models, they're getting so much better.
Yeah.
At least according to the benchmarks. I will say anecdotally, when I talk to my engineering team, says they're not very good for what they're doing. But it is also the case that they're so much cheaper for kind of obvious reasons that you have to incorporate them into your strategy. So any customer that I talk to, I always tell them, it's one thing if you're chatting with a Claude or Gemini or ChatGPT, like as your chatbot agent doing emails and idea generation. But if you're embedding that into a workflow, if you're coding, if you have applications running on AI models, I would absolutely have some sort of a model routing or kind of model picker, task management embedded into your system. Because not every, it's like Ferraris and Civics. They're both cars, right? But they have different purposes, of course. Like everybody understands that type of analogy. Same with models. And it's not just, oh, Claude can pick Sonnet 4 point whatever for easy problems and Fable 5 whatever for hard problems, and then everything's within the Anthropic ecosystem. It's like, no, you could go to open weight models. You can try thinking machines just develop their model, which is supposed to be really powerful and super cost effective. Meta, I think a couple weeks ago, did their model. Microsoft actually recently announced theirs, and some improvements that they're making in their models. So I think, yeah, as these models commoditize, just like automobiles have commoditized and all the rest of it, you want to pick the right model for the right situation. And in particular, you as the user shouldn't have to think what is the right model for the right situation. You might have a set of principles. I want fast. I want cheap. The risk of being wrong is very high. Therefore, I want a smarter model, even though it's more expensive and slower. Like, that's fine. You want to onshore, offshore your model. You want to host it, self-host it, or you want it to live in a different environment. Like, you should have a set of principles that you're thinking about. And then you build your architecture, your technology around your design principles. That is where I don't think we're there yet, because that's kind of complex and it takes like a lot of engineering effort to like design that. There are companies that do like model routing, but what I'm talking about is a little bit higher level. It's a little bit more at the organizational governance level, but that's absolutely where I see things going.
Very interesting. I see our time's pretty much up here, Ilan. Is there anything else?
So fast.
Yeah, it has. I was looking. It's like, oh shoot, it's practically over. I kind of want to maybe give you the opportunity. Like, are there any other? I mean, we've touched on it quite a bit. Are there any other practical things that you would tell like business owners that might be listening on what you should be thinking, say, for the next 12 months if you're going to be thinking about adopting AI tools into your company a lot more?
Yeah, sure. I might repeat myself a little bit here. Obviously, I think data is very important. So, not that you have to like fix your data before you could touch AI, but look at your data, understand who owns what. Are they accountable to the things? Is data being used in your company? That's like one aspect. The other one would be start using AI. Like start using, like if your company's not using ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, whatever, start. do it in a safe and secure way. So don't just like give Anthropic and OpenAI all of your data like people are doing,
Please.
believe it or
Yeah.
not. They just like copy and paste your company data into the chat window and be like, great.
Yeah.
So like think about security, and that might look like having a cloud. It might look like investing a little bit more in your IT. But yeah, I would tell people like experiment with AI, build automations, vibe code something, have fun with it, sandbox it, like be smart with what you give it. But the best way to learn is to iterate. Like,
Mhm.
don't worry. And then the third thing I would say, I probably have a lot of things to say, but the third thing I would say is don't get too distracted and caught up in the noise. You know, a lot of the headlines you read about AI killing jobs
Mm.
or AI, um, you know, making it so like destroying SaaS, like the SaaS apocalypse and all this stuff. Like you kind of see some of it in the numbers, but some of it is a little bit of the kind of tail wagging the dog, where it's like leading.
Right.
And I would say, read about it, be interested, be curious, ask questions, form your own opinion. Don't be afraid, but also don't get caught up in the noise. Don't think that if you don't adopt whatever that means, AI tomorrow, you're going to get left behind. Also, don't stick your head in the sand, right? So you kind of have to do both. Um, you never want to make decisions out of a position of fear, both with a vendor or even like your own sorts of decisions. So to recap, think about your data, make sure it's in good order, experiment with AI, have fun with it. It's really magical.
Mhm, mhm.
Um, and don't operate from a place of fear. Don't get distracted by the noise. Find a few trusted sources, investigate, research, and then move on.
Perfect. Well, I think that's a great way to end the podcast here. Paradoxmachines.com is your website. We'll have your
Right.
LinkedIn up on the show notes as well. Any other places that you guys are active and you want people to follow you?
No, I would say that, the LinkedIn, the website,
Mhm.
Elon at paradoxmachines.com if you want to get in touch. And yeah, no, this was a lovely conversation, Mark. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it went by too fast. I'll have to have you back on in 12 to 24 months to see how things have absolutely shifted and talk
Yeah,
again.
I'd
Thanks
love
for coming
that.
on.
Thanks so
Awesome.
much. See you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Well, thanks for listening to this week's Future Tech and Foresight podcast. If you like what you've heard here, there are, of course, a number of ways that you can support the podcast. The best way would be to leave a review on Apple Podcasts or give a rating on Spotify, which you can find a step-by-step explanation for on the futuretechandforesight.com website. Alternatively, feel free to leave a comment either on the episode show notes or the YouTube channel where you can see video recordings of the interviews. And finally, if you are part of an organization that is aware of the disruptive and transformational impact that emerging and future technologies will bring and want to know more, please get in touch to hear about the strategic foresight services that we offer and how we can help future-proof your organization and take advantage of the phenomenal opportunities available to survive and thrive in the future.
A lot of future-shocked people and future-shocked institutions in our society are simply overwhelmed.
Once there is superintelligence, the fate of humanity may depend on what the superintelligence does.
Science fact is catching up to science fiction.
The first truly intelligent machine will be the last invention that humanity needs to make.
The only scarcity that will exist in the future is that which we decide to create ourselves as humans.
Within a 10-year design revolution, we can have all humanity living the highest standard of living anybody's ever known.
Progress is accelerating at an exponential pace, and it's going to reach a point where progress is so fast it's going to be a singularity.
We are probably one of the last generations of Homo sapiens.
Every single headline points to the birth pangs of a Type 1 civilization.